What up, though? Where I was brought up, everybody was tough, or trying to be. Although being tough seemed to me to be the standard for whether you were a real man or not, being tough was only the behavior of animals within a concrete jungle. Where I was brought up, everybody was a player, pimp, or trying to be. Although being a player pimp seemed to me to be the standard for whether you were a real man or not, being a player pimp was only the outcome of ignorant, misunderstood natural instincts, behavior much lower than most animals of the forest, however, well suited for the animals of the concrete jungles. Where I was brought up, everybody, actually nobody, promoted being a father, a truly engaged, present father, a real man, natural male, instinctual What about the dads? Child welfare agencies' efforts to identify, locate, and involve non resident fathers. Research Summary, ASPE, an official website of the United States government. What about the dads? Child welfare agencies' efforts to identify, locate, and involve non resident fathers. Research Summary. Most foster children are not living with their fathers at the time they are removed from their homes. Female leaders on lessons learned from their fathers. Forbes Women. Female leaders on lessons learned from their fathers. Shelley Zallis, senior contributor. Forbes Women. Forbes.com. My dad said that when he died, if he left us a lot of money, then he hadn't really lived life. My father didn't wear a watch because he believed in living in the moment. Fathers have a big influence on their daughters and how they live and how they lead. Maria Menounos, CEO of AfterBuzz TV. My dad is a jack of all trades and held many types of jobs: custodial services, meat cutter, carpet, tile installation. My dad always said, whatever we do as a family. The biggest lessons I learned from my dad is to be classy, be a good person, and to work hard. Jessica Ling, Vice President and Head of B2B Marketing at Verizon Media. My father was one of 13 siblings. He worked very hard to provide us with every opportunity so that we could make our own choices. Stephanie McMahon, Chief Brand Officer at WWE. My father is the chairman and CEO of WWE. He grew up in a trailer park. The best advice my father gave me was to always listen, since you never know where a good idea is going to come from. Shelley Diamond, Chief Marketing Officer at UNICEF USA. My father was the oldest of 7 children. It's not what he said, it's what he did. Jennifer Cole, SVP Executive Director Integrated Media at Young and Rubicam. My father used to say, I have an open door policy, but don't only come to me with problems. Show me you have a solution. Jennifer De Silva, CEO, Berlin Cameron. My dad told me, always find something to do or someone to help. Tiffany Dufu, founder and CEO of The Crew. My dad taught me you don't have to have an example in order to be who you want to be. Even if I don't have access to a role model, I can still get up, do the work, treat people with integrity, and create something that no one has ever seen before. You don't have to have a plan. You may not have enough tools to be able to create a plan. You can accomplish a lot by just knowing what you stand for and what you believe. Shelley Zallis, Forbes.com. The Broke Black Girl, 50 Things I Learned from My Dad Before He Died. This is the price you pay for having a great father. You get the wonder, the joy, the tender moments, and you get the tears at the end too. Harlan Coben. I don't care if you grow up to shovel be the best shoveler you can be. If you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. I'm from the hood, but I'm welcomed everywhere. Be open to any new challenge or change, regardless of your background and skills. There were plenty of times growing up when money was tight. Take a moment to be grateful for what you have and find the little things that give you joy. You effing up. This was how he called out my shortcomings and proceeded with correction. If there is a need, do it. If there is a void that you can fill it. If there was anything to be done within our family. No one gets it right every time. There would be a time that I would need him and he couldn't carry anger in his heart and still show up. Find something to laugh about at least once a day. Keep your needs simple and enjoy small pleasures. Don't share your personal business. My father was not shy about showing his children affection. Just as quickly as he would show us he was happy, he would allow us to see him sad, even if he cried at times. He helped us understand that men, especially fathers, experience the same emotions as everyone else. You are never too old to get up, go outside, and play in the grass, run in the street, or simply jump off the porch. My dad did not want to be made out to be a liar, so he would only promise to do things he absolutely knew he had the capability to do, and if he wasn't able to do something, he would be honest about it. My dad worked at a college as a chef, but he always kept a side job to make additional income. He owned a catering company, he was a handyman, he was a mechanic, and that is just to name a few. My dad took pride in his vocabulary. I compared value to monetary investments only. My father invested into me mentally and spiritually every day. Tough times don't last, tough people do. My father was not shy about needing his rest and definitely got as much as he needed. My dad did not get involved in my personal affairs. Family is important. Speak kindly to yourself. Be a reliable friend. Always say, I love you. He taught me how to pump gas, put air in my tires, and oil, and check all of the fluids in the car. He wanted to be sure that I knew how. Dance like nobody's watching. Always return what you borrow. Great music is supposed to be played loudly. Dress for the occasion. Call your parents. Again, call your parents. Never let anyone take away your voice or the ability to speak up for yourself. Keep cash on you at all times. Save things that are important to you. Stay informed on what is going on out there in the world. Profanity was used by him as a daily emotional expression and as a means to let us know he was serious. Supporting your local talent gives your community something to be proud of. My dad spoke to everyone, regardless if they were coming or going. He shook hands, he smiled, he held doors, and he always made sure his encounter with someone was a positive one. Cheer loudly at your children's events. You will not get these moments again. Be more concerned with your character than your reputation. Meet people where they are. Try new things. Some things aren't as bad as they look. Words are powerful. Fight for what you want, but know when to walk away. Don't be ashamed of the things you cannot control. Money is a tool. It can build or destroy. Your relationship with money should grow as you age. People are more reluctant to do things for you or help you when they know there is a great chance that you will either pay it forward or return the favor. This world is tough. The many ways fathers teach their children about values. MSU Extension, Michigan State University. The many ways fathers teach their children about values. Kevin Zaramsky, Michigan State University Extension, 2018. Fathers teach important skills like confidence, resilience, respect, and kindness to their children. The American Psychological Association recognizes children will watch their fathers interact with others, especially how their fathers interact with other children. The significance of a father's influence. Focus on the family. Focus on the family. The significance of a father's influence. Dr. David Papineau, professor of sociology at Rutgers University and co-director of the National Marriage Project. Fathers provide protection and economic support and male role models. They have a parenting style that is significantly different from that of a mother, and that difference is important in healthy child development. David Papineau, Life Without Father, New York, The Free Press, 1996, page 163. Dads are more likely to encourage risk taking. They provide kids with a broader diversity of social experiences. They also introduce them to a wider variety of methods of dealing with life. They tend to stress rules, justice, fairness, and duty in discipline. In this way, they teach children the objectivity and consequences of right and wrong. They give kids insight into the world of men. They prepare them for the challenges of life and demonstrate by example the meaning of respect between the sexes. Fathers encourage competition, engendering independence. Mothers promote equity, creating a sense of security. Dads emphasize conceptual communication, which helps kids expand their vocabulary and intellectual capacities. Moms major in sympathy, care, and help, thus demonstrating the importance of relationships. Dads tend to see their child in relation to the rest of the world. Moms tend to see the rest of the world in relation to their child. Neither style of parenting is adequate in and of itself. Taken together, they balance each other out and equip the up and coming generation with a healthy, well-rounded approach to life. 82% of studies on father involvement and the child well-being published since 1980 found significant associations between positive father involvement and offspring well-being. Paul R. Amato and Fernando Rivera. Paternal Involvement and Children's Behavior Problems. Journal of Marriage and the Family, 61, 1991. According to child psychiatrist Kyle Pruitt, a father's more active play style and comparatively slower response to a toddler or infant experiencing frustration serve to promote problem-solving competencies and independence in the child. In the words of Dr. Pruitt, positive father care is associated with more pro-social and positive moral behavior in boys and girls. This is borne out by research from the University of Pennsylvania, which indicates that children who feel a closeness and warmth with their father are twice as likely to enter college, 75% less likely to have a child in their teen years, 80% less likely to be incarcerated, and half as likely to show various signs of depression. In a 26-year-long study, researchers found that the number one factor in developing empathy in children was father involvement. Fathers spending regular time alone with their children translated into children who became compassionate adults. The importance of a father in a child's life. Pediatric Associates of Franklin. The importance of a father in a child's life. Fathers play a role in every child's life that cannot be filled by others. Children look to their fathers to lay down the rules and enforce them. They also look to their fathers to provide a feeling of security, both physical and emotional. Children want to make their fathers proud, and an involved father promotes inner growth and strength. Studies have shown that when fathers are affectionate and supportive, it greatly affects a child's cognitive and social development. It also instills an overall sense of well-being and confidence. The way a father treats his child will influence what he or she looks for in other people. Friends, lovers, and spouses will all be chosen based on how the child perceived the meaning of the relationship with his or her father. A father shows his daughter what a good relationship with a man is, what a man is like. If a father is loving and gentle, his daughter will look for those qualities in men when she's old enough to begin dating. If a father is strong and valiant, she will relate closely to men of the same character. Boys model themselves after their father's character. Boys will seek approval from their fathers from a very young age. If a father is caring and treats people with respect, the young boy will grow up much the same. When a father is absent, young boys look to other male figures to set the rules for how to behave and survive in the world. The encouraging science of fatherhood and the father effect. The science of dad and the father effect. There are data-driven reasons why kids do better with a father figure in their lives. By Joshua A. Krish. Fatherly.com. Kids who grow up with a present, engaged dad are less likely to drop out of school or wind up in jail, compared to children with absent fathers and no other male caretakers or role models. When children have close relationships with father figures, they tend to avoid high-risk behaviors, and they're less likely to have sex at a young age. They're more likely to have high-paying jobs and healthy, stable relationships when they grow up. They also tend to have higher IQ test scores by the age of 3 and endure fewer psychological problems throughout their lives when dads take the role of a father seriously. When fathers are actively involved with their children, children do better, says Paul Amato, PhD, a sociologist who studies parent-child relationships at Pennsylvania State University. There's a consistent correlation between a father figure's presence and a lack of aggression in kids. Dad sticking around reduces the risk of female delinquency. A father's active participation in the family is always preferable. Just watching television together, for example, isn't going to help much. Fathers are more than just sperm donors, but the DNA sperm carries. Fathers are more than just sperm donors, but the DNA sperm carries. What the DNA sperm carries is important. Research suggests that the earlier a dad gets involved, the better. In a 1997 book on the subject, researchers argued that fathers who are actively involved in labor are effectively developing relationships, albeit one-way relationships, with their children. In a 2011 literature review on paternal involvement during pregnancy and labor, the authors claim that dads who are actively involved and invested in the baby before they're born disproportionately remain involved in the child's life. Studies have shown more paternal involvement means better outcomes for kids. Involved fathers help their kids, and uninvolved fathers harm them. Knowing your dad cares and wants to be involved to the extent that they can is really important. Marcy Carlson, PhD, a sociologist at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, told Fatherly. Being around is one thing, being engaged is another. The quantity of interaction doesn't really benefit kids. But if you have more high quality, engaged parenting, that does seem to be positively related to outcomes for children, Carlson says. Warmth is also a key factor. Fathers who spend a lot of time with their kids but are dismissive or insulting tend to have only negative impacts. One 1991 study found that infants attained higher cognitive scores at age 1 if their fathers were involved in their lives when they were 1 month old. Preterm infants similarly score high at 36 months if their dads play an active role from birth. A separate study found that infants who played with their dads at 9 months enjoyed similar benefits. The research suggests that boys lean on their fathers more than anyone else as they develop social skills. Both boys and girls who are fortunate enough to have dads in their lives excel and, in some cases, outperform their peers. Teenage daughters take fewer sexual risks if they have strong relationships with their dad. Numerous past studies find a link between low-quality fathering and daughters' sexual outcomes, including early and risky sexual behavior, says Del Priori, who has studied how dads impact risky sex. A father who is cold or disengaged may change daughters, social environments, and sexual psychology in ways that promote unrestricted sexual behavior. Del Priori suggests that daughters might learn from disengaged fathers that they shouldn't expect men to invest meaningfully in long-term relationships, so they settle for casual flings. It's also possible that daughters with disengaged fathers receive less parental monitoring and are more likely to affiliate with sexually promiscuous friends, she says. On the other hand, having a father who is warm and engaged can protect against these outcomes. Engaged fathers are those who behave warmly and interact meaningfully with their kids, Del Priori says. They're the sort of dads who help with homework and attend sporting events. When it comes to daughters, taking the time to listen to them, learn about their lives, show up for important events, and provide emotional support could protect against early and unrestricted sexual behavior, she says. For dads that live far away, it doesn't seem there's tons of evidence that what they do matters for their children, says sociologist Marcy Carlson. Princeton University's Fragile Family Study, which currently follows a cohort of 5,000 children born in the United States between 1998 and 2000. Most of the children in the study have unmarried parents and absentee fathers for a variety of reasons. One of the most sobering findings of the Fragile Family Study is that when a dad is far away, there is relatively little he can do to have a positive influence on his children. Pew Research Center, Living Arrangements and Father Involvement, Gretchen Livingston and Kim Parker. pewresearch.org. Nearly half, 46%, of men ages 15 to 44 with biological children report that at least one of their children was born outside of marriage, and 31% report that all of their children were born outside of marriage. In contrast, 69% report that they have had at least one of their children within a marriage. Among biological fathers ages 20 to 24, more than three-fourths, 76%, have had a child out of wedlock, while this share drops to 36% for fathers aged 35 to 44. Some 37% of white biological dads have had at least one child out of wedlock, while 77% have had a birth within a marriage. Black and Hispanic fathers are much Black and Hispanic fathers are much more likely to report having a non-marital birth. Among black men, 72% have had a child out of wedlock and 48% have had one in marriage. And among Hispanic men, 59% have had a birth out of wedlock and 58% have had a birth within a marriage. Black biological fathers are far less likely than white biological fathers to be married to the mothers of their children. Some 36% of blacks are in this situation, compared with 59% of whites. Among Hispanic biological fathers, this share is 50%. This is from pewresearch.org. In 1960, 89% of minor children were living with their fathers, and 96% of children were living with their mothers. In other words, 11% of children were living apart from their fathers, and 4% were living apart from their mothers. 50 years later, the share of children living with their fathers fell to 73%, meaning that 27%, some 20.3 million, were living apart from their fathers. In comparison, 92% of minors were living with their mothers and 8% were living apart from them. U.S. Census Bureau, 2010. Fathers give themselves lower marks than mothers. 63% of fathers and children under age 18 think they are doing an excellent or very good job as parents, compared with 80% of mothers with similarly aged children. Pew Research Center, The Rise of Single Fathers, a 9-fold increase since 1960. Gretchen Livingston. A record 8% of households with minor children in the United States are headed by a single father, up from just over 1% in 1960, according to a Pew Research Center analysis of decennial census and American Community Survey data. The number of single-father households has increased about 9-fold since 1960, from less than 300,000 to more than 2.6 million in 2011. In comparison, the number of single-mother households increased more than 4-fold during that time period, up to 8.6 million in 2011 from 1.9 million in 1960. Pew Research surveys find that the public believes that a father's greatest role is to provide values to his children, followed by emotional support, discipline, and income support. Guys reveal the most important things their dad taught them. Ask men. Guys reveal the most important things their dads taught them. The lessons men have learned from their fathers. AskMen.com, 2019. My granddad taught me that measure twice, cut once is worth considering far beyond just when he'd repeat it as I helped him build a chest of drawers. And my dad taught me the importance of giving things a second chance, especially even if they don't look brand new afterwards. That just adds character to them and saves them from just taking up space in a landfill, too. My dad taught me to be suspicious. He'd say things like, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And he'd remind me, explicitly and implicitly, to be wary of thieves, scammers, and things going wrong. A warning can be both a shield that protects them and a weight that they have to carry. A warning can be both a shield that protects them and a weight they have to carry. My earliest memories of my father are of his gentleness, his limitless energy, his big laugh, and infectious joy in the lives of his 4 sons, letting us jump on him, letting me and my brothers ride on his back like a horse. His generous physicality and seemingly indestructible nature and almost unlimited playfulness, always finding a good excuse to take us to the park, push us on swings, catch us coming off slides, going for ice cream cones or popsicles afterwards. Him coming home from a long day at a very physical job, yet picking up a hockey stick or baseball glove and playing with us before even going into the house. Never criticizing or belittling us, and always picking us up when we stumbled until we learned to pick ourselves up. My dad and I never connected. We never did anything together. We don't share any hobbies or interests. I thought of him as the man whose house I lived in. Sometimes a father's biggest lessons to his children are the ones learned in his absence. Whether he's a deadbeat dad, overworked, dies young, or just leaves one day, some fathers leave it to their sons to figure things out for themselves. Sometimes we end up raising ourselves. The Rothschild bloodline. The Rothschild bloodline. whale.to/b/sp/Rothschild. Lord Rothschild, in his book, quotes a letter sent from Davidson on June 24th, 1814 to Nathan Rothschild. As long as a house is like yours, and as long as you work together with your brothers, not a house in the world will be able to compete with you, to cause you harm, or to take advantage of you. A letter from Salomon Rothschild to his brother Nathan on February 28th, 1815. We are like the mechanism of a watch. Each part is essential. Amsel Rothschild is reported to have said, "Give me control of the economics of a country, and I care not who makes her laws." Today, his descendants meet twice daily in London to dictate to the world what the world price of gold will be. They also dictate what the Federal Reserve System will do with America's finances. Mayor Amschel decided to take the name Red Shield, Rothschild in German. Amschel placed his sons in the major European capitals, where they each set up the principal banking houses. Mayer Amschel Rothschild lived in the Frankfurt ghetto. Mayer Amschel Rothschild picked his sons' wives for the business gains the wives would bring to the family. The oldest son was not happy with this. Actually, he was bitter because he was denied marriage to the woman he loved, but he complied with his father's choice. Mayer had 10 children, and they were all employed in the family business. One of the things Mayer Amschel set up was to disperse his 5 sons to the major capitals of Europe. The Rothschilds had developed several traits in the ghetto that made their family hard to stop. The 5 Rothschild brothers, each in the 5 major European capitals, set up their own private courier system, which was faster than the regular mail. The Rothschilds had news, whether political or economic, faster than anyone else, including the monarchs. Thus, the Rothschilds had news before anyone else, including ministers, government. They also understood how to make use of it. Whenever Mayer Amschel and his sons were on the verge of being caught out, some highly placed person stepped in and stopped the investigation. The family began in Frankfurt, Germany, the city where paper money was popularized. The oldest known Rothschild went by the name of Yuri Fiebisch, who lived in the early 16th century. His descendants lived in the House of Red Shield. His great-great-great-great-grandson was Moses Bauer, who lived in the early 18th century. The early Rothschilds chose the surname Bauer, meaning farmer in German. Mayer Amschel Bauer was a well-off coin trader in Frankfurt. In front of his house hung a sign with the family symbol, which was a red hexagram, the seal of Solomon, the Star of David. Mayer Amschel Rothschild, Rothschild, equals red shield. He had 5 daughters and 5 sons. His 5 sons have been called the Mayer brothers because they all shared that middle name: Amschel Mayer, Solomon Mayer, Nathan Mayer, Kalman or Carl Mayer, and Jacob or James Mayer. Each son entered the family business at the age of 12. Each son entered the family business at the age of 12. They weren't throwing around a baseball. They weren't playing strike 'em out. They weren't playing half court. When Mayer died, headship over the family fell on Nathan Rothschild of England. Even though Nathan was not the oldest, the 5 brothers had voted unanimously that he was the most capable to lead them. One of Nathan's contemporaries describes his eerie countenance. Eyes are usually called windows of the soul, but in Rothschild's case, you would conclude that the windows are false ones, or that there was no soul to look out them. There comes not one pencil of light from the interior, neither is there any gleam of that which comes from without reflected in any direction. The whole puts you in mind of an empty skin, and you wonder why it stands upright without at least something in it. When Meyer died in 1812, his oldest son, Amschel, took over the Frankfurt firm. Amschel was not the head of the family. He was its spokesman to the aristocracy. He was the one who would apply for the honors and titles for his brothers. Solomon was the second oldest son of Meyer. What separated him from his brothers was his gift of diplomacy. He was more stately and complimentary than the others. Said one banker of Solomon, nobody leaves him without being comforted. It was this fact that led the brothers to send him to Vienna, Austria, to establish a relationship with the painfully aristocratic Habsburgs and with vain Metternich. In 1816, Amschel, Solomon, Karl, and James received a title of nobility from the Habsburgs. The next son, Karl, was the family's chief courier. In 1821, Karl was sent to Naples, Italy, to oversee loans there that were meant to finance Metternich's forces who had arrived to quell a rebellion. While in Italy, the Rothschild mantle came upon Karl, and he made a series of ingenious deals with the Italian government that forced Naples to pay for its own occupation. Due to his success, it was decided that he would stay in Naples and set up his own bank. He became financier to the court, the financial overlord of Italy. Last, but absolutely not least, was the youngest son, James. James became an established figure in France. He founded a bank there and began the French branch of the Rothschild family. His bank, De Rothschild Frères, was in a league all its own. No one in France could even wish to be as powerful as James. Today, there exists the question of whether or not a father is necessary. Today, there exists an idea of which parent is more important in regard to a child's well-being and education. Today, what exists are masses of humans that are the products of unsuccessful dissociative child rearing and the conditioning of ignorance rather than unconditional compassion and unblemished natural instinct. Do the right thing.